Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's Miss Julia with the Handwork Studio for Creativity Time. Welcome back. It's Monday, a new week of crafts. Really excited to share some new ideas and some new techniques that hopefully maybe you haven't done before. So I am going to let folks go ahead and get here, join us, take a look in the sidebar. You'll see our link for all of our materials. So if you have not had a chance to take a look and collect your supplies, the link will bring you over to our Creativity Time page. Just scroll on down and you will find DIY dream catchers, and you will see the supply list over there. There's a downloadable template. You can print that off with, just regular printer paper will work fine. If you're having any troubles with the setting, just make sure you print it to fit the page. That is the goal. So welcome as folks are beginning to join us. Let us know who's here. Tell us where you're coming from. I am Miss Julia, and I am with the Handwork Studio and getting ready to do, oh my gosh, our third week of Creativity Time. Really exciting. And I'm at my home studio right outside of Philadelphia. Normally, we are based around our Narberth studio, which is just west of Philadelphia. And fortunately, we're closed right now, but we are all safely crafting. Our hashtag is craft at home, crafting in our homes, making all sorts of creative projects while we're hanging out and being safe and keeping everybody else safe as well. So welcome, friends. I think we have a good bunch that has joined us. We are going to be making DIY dream catchers. I don't know if anybody, if you've been growing up and you went to summer camp, maybe you made some dream catchers, or you've learned about them in school. So I'm really excited to bring you a pretty simple version of a dream catcher that everybody should be able to do at home. So welcome. I see Jeanette has joined us. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to hear where everybody else is coming from, but I am going to go ahead and get this craft started. And just to give you a little rundown of how I like to run Creativity Time is that you are more than welcome to craft along with me. I think that's fantastic. However, if I'm going a little too fast for you, you can always tell me to slow down. Excuse me, I'm just going to wipe my glasses over here. You can always tell me to slow down, so I'm going to refer to the comment section on the side if somebody has a question. I do have some folks, Miss Paige and Miss Laura and Miss Anna, who usually help me. They all work from the studio, and if I'm having any trouble seeing what you guys are asking of me, they will help me to refer to your questions. So please let me know if something's not making sense. If you have ideas, it's a great place to throw up some ideas that maybe I did not mention, but I will let you know that I like to be as interactive as possible. And if you are missing any information and I'm not able to slow down, I promise these videos are going to be available after I'm done broadcasting today. So you'll be able to find it on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, our website. And the good news is all of our Creativity Time videos are actually logged and archived on all those platforms I just mentioned. So if you're just joining us for the first time today, you can go back and see 10 different crafts, and so we did 2 weeks of projects so far. So there's tons of content for you to tap into, and most of it is going to be using supplies that you can find around your home. Okay, so to the project, what you've all came here for. We're going to be making DIY dream catchers today. And I have a couple of examples behind me. Woo! Hopefully I don't knock everything over. I have a couple of examples behind me. This is one over here. This is the more traditional style, the way it's woven. All the yarn is woven together and linked up. They actually use this technique if you've ever seen old-fashioned snowshoes. This is the same technique. They just use like an animal material, like a sinew. So it's much sturdier than something like yarn. But this is a really cool weaving technique. I am not going to do this technique today. This is the more traditional style of dream catchers you might see at the store, or maybe some kits if you've ever bought a dream catcher kit. But for today, I'm going to show you a simpler style. And my hope is that as we are navigating this new virtual world, I'm going to be able to get into more complicated techniques. So we might do some more recorded videos, and I might do a dream catcher version with this woven version. The one we are going to do today, just going to reach behind me, is this one over here. And you can see there's still, I don't know if you guys can see that, there's still intersecting strands all together. There are all the sorts of decorations hanging from the bottom, and you have a loop to hang it up. So this is the version I am going to show you guys today. You can see I did this one on fancy sparkly paper. I feel like you can never go wrong with sparkly paper. Don't worry if you do not have sparkly paper. If you notice, this version over here is made on cardboard, and I was able to decorate it myself. So my recommendation is to see what you have around your home, and making sure it's a sturdy piece of paper will be the only thing you need to consider for what to weave around. So let's talk about the materials. I'm going to just hang this back up over here. So as I just mentioned, my sparkly paper, my cardboard, we are going to make ours out of cardboard. So the first thing you're going to need for supplies is, this is just from a shipping box. If you have like a cereal box, it just needs to be 8 inches by 8 inches. So think about printer paper and how wide printer paper is. That should be plenty big enough. And then I also have created a template. So this is what we're going to trace to get the circle we want for our dream catcher. So this template is roughly 8 inches by 8 inches. And I mentioned before, this was just printed off of from my computer. If you're having any sizing issues, you can go into your settings on your printer and make sure you just hit like fit to page, and it should fit to page pretty nicely. And this is about 8 inches by 8 inches. So anything that's going to be about the size of a piece of printer paper for your cardboard will work beautifully. I also have done some scrapbooking. So if anybody's done any scrapbooking, we have some colorful paper. Excuse me, this is like a cardstock. So this is pretty sturdy, and that's what I made this sparkly one out of. I had really nice scrapbooking paper that I wasn't using, and I thought it would be great for basically our loom for our dream catcher. Okay, so the first thing we need to think about is the cardboard or the base of the loom. Then if you can print your template. You are also going to need a pair of scissors. You are going to need, I highly recommend a hole punch. So if you have a hole punch, I would recommend using it. I will offer, I'll stick this over here. I will offer some ways of making the holes, but I prefer the hole punch. It's a little safer to do it this way. So you have a hole punch, we have scissors. We need something to use as the actual webbing to catch our dreams. I'm going to use yarn for our example today. In this version over here, I actually used embroidery floss. I thought it was a little tricky to see the embroidery floss on the screen. So for today's purposes, so you can see my webbing, I'm going to use our nice bright yarn over here. And I have markers, so you can use anything like colored pencils, crayons. If you want to get fancy and you want to break the paint out, you certainly can consider that. However, think about drying time. So if you start to paint, you might not be able to do the webbing right away, okay? So there's markers, and then another recommendation is, but optional, would be something like tape. And I'll show you why you might want to consider tape during this craft project. And then anything like buttons or beads or extra paper, I just use some more of the sparkly paper I have to cut out some of the embellishments you can add on the bottom. And I think this is going to be awesome to see what you guys come up with. So like I said, use the toolbar on the side or the comments bar on the side to let us know what you guys are going to come up with. We love to see your projects when you're done. If you have other thoughts and materials you'd like to use, please share that with us. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead, excuse me, and let's get started. I'm going to grab my scissors, and I am going to grab my template. The first thing I want to do is cut my template out. So I'm just going to turn to the side over here. You guys can see this. And you're going to follow the nice dark outline. So just go ahead and cut around that. And you guys can see what's nice about this paper is it's pretty thin, so it's easy to cut with. And you notice that since we are using scissors and we have to use things to poke holes, my recommendation with this project is it's good for ages 5 and up. And then I highly recommend adult supervision. And what that means is somebody might need help cutting through layers of cardboard or poking holes into the cardboard, and we want to make sure we keep all hands nice and safe. So adult supervision is highly recommended when doing this project. Okay, so I just cut my circle out. I'm going to fold it slightly in half. It almost looks like a taco, right? So I have it folded in half, and I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right into the middle just to create an opening for my scissors to go into. And what I want to do is cut to my other outline, this side, right over here. Don't cut all the way through. And I'm going to make the ring. So what's going to happen is I'm going to cut, cut, cut. You guys seen that okay? And just let me know if I need to slow down. I'll take a peek at the comments over here while we're cutting this out. We're just going to go ahead and cut that inner ring out. My son told me it looked like a donut. I said, yes, it does look like a donut. So if you decided you want to turn your dream catcher into a donut, you certainly could. If you don't have any cardboard to work with, some other ideas would be a sturdy paper plate could work really well with this project. And if you have any other ideas, you can share that. But now I have our little ring. It's all cut out, a nice frame. The inside is now removed. I don't need this anymore. You can certainly use it for something else. I'm going to just stick it off to the side. And you will see on our template, we have some holes. Okay? What I want to do with the holes, I want to use my hole puncher. This is just a standard size hole puncher. The smaller ones are also okay. I don't even know what size this is. This is probably about a 1/4 inch hole punch. And I'm going to go around to each of my holes. I'm going to stick the hole puncher through, and I'm just going to give it a little hole punch. Roughly right in the middle, give or take. Again, this does not need to be perfect. The idea is to have a sense of where you need to mark the holes on your cardboard. So we're going to just go all the way around. And again, like I said, if it's not perfect, no big deal. Just be careful not to rip this. All right, whoop. Is anybody else using any types of materials I didn't mention? You see, feel free to pop it up there or give me a thumbs up if everyone's doing okay. There we go. I'm almost all the way around. So now I have these little holes you can see through. That's going to help me mark where I want the holes to go on my cardboard. So for my next step is to take this template. This can be used over and over and over again, so you can make lots and lots of different dream catchers with this template over here. So make sure you keep it safe if you want to use it again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it onto my piece of cardboard or whatever your surface you're going to use that's sturdy. And I'm going to take a marker. I'm just going to put this down for a second over here. Let's see if I can bring this down a little bit. So I see that. Pretty close to the edge, as much as I can. I'm going to just take my marker. If you want to, one person can hold the template in place and the other person can do the tracing. If you want to glue the template down, you certainly can. However, you wouldn't be able to use it again most likely. You could tape it down with a piece of painter's tape. But I'm just gently going to work my way around the circle here. And then I did the inner ring. And now I'm going to do the outer ring. And just make sure it doesn't wiggle too much on you. It's okay if it moves a little bit. I just come around my fingers. I'm going to go all the way around so we have a full circle. If your fingers are in the way, just lift them up. I'm going to lift this finger up. Okay, so I do not want to move my circle yet, even though I just traced it, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make dots where I punch the holes out. The dots do not need to be perfectly round. I just want to mark it to create a sense of where they should be. And now I am fully traced onto my cardboard. You should have an outer circle, an inner circle, and all the dots marked. And I'm going to go ahead and lift it up. And you can see I now have my, excuse me, my general shape. Okay, everyone doing okay? All right. So now my shape is on here, but we need to get it out of the big piece of cardboard. What I like to do is, to help myself cut it down, I'm going to cut straight off over here to make my piece of cardboard a little smaller. I'm just going to bring this over here. Bring it over. So this is where, if you have some small hands, you're going to really get a workout. Sometimes cardboard can be hard to cut through. So I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to leave my other piece off to the side. And now I'm going to work my way around the outer circle. I'm just focusing on the outer circle. And I know that going around in a circle shape can sometimes be a little tricky. But we're just going to slowly, I like to use the back corner of my scissors to do most of the cutting for me. If you're getting to a point where it's hard, I might cut off the excess. See, I'm going to just go ahead and cut off the excess. And that way I don't have to try to maneuver my scissors while all that cardboard was in the way. So I just cut off the excess, and I'm going to keep working around all the way back to the beginning. And now I have my circle shape. Everyone doing okay? Let's see. Oh, did I miss a dot? I might have missed a dot. Let's see. I think I see where I missed my dot. Right over here. Right over there. So, if you missed dots, you can always go back in. I could sort of see how there was a wider gap between these two spaces. So you can always take your template again. And that's a good point. Like, Miss Julia makes mistakes. As you can see, this is live. You get to see all the behind the scenes happening here. And that's okay. So let's use this as a moment when things are not perfectly worked out. Don't worry about it. There's often ways to fix it. Or you could say, you know what, I tried. I'm going to try again and restart if that's what you need to do. So I was able to see where I missed my dot and I brought it back on. Okay? The next thing we need to do is figure out how are we going to get this middle circle out. And sometimes this could be tricky, especially on a big piece of cardboard. I'm going to do the same thing though. I am going to give it a little fold and I'm going to take my scissors in there to give it a little cut so I can get my scissors into the space. I don't know if you guys can see the space that I just made. Right there, okay? And that's gonna help me cut my inner circle out. I'm gonna put my scissors right through, right here, and I'm gonna cut up to my inner outline. Don't cut all the way through. And what I might do is I might come around and do it a couple of times in different places. So I'm gonna cut up to my inner outline, cut up to my inner outline. Sometimes this helps to get your scissors all the way through so you can get that circle cut out. Okay, so now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to angle it. So my scissors are on a pretty deep angle, and I'm just going to begin to slowly work around the inner circle. And I'm holding, I like my hand here so I can hold it and rotate. And I'm keeping my hands out of the way of the scissors. Everyone's seeing that okay? There's one piece, so I remove that. I'm going to put my hand back through, and we're going to keep working around. Don't worry if things get a little bent or crinkled. They will straighten out, especially once we start getting our yarn in there. There we go. Looks like little pizza pies, right? So we're going to get our last little pizza wedge out of here. I'm just holding it and rotating it. And voila! I have made my very own cardboard ring. You could certainly toss with it, or, you know, you can use lots of things with a ring, right? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take my hole punch. If you have a hole punch that holds the dots, you might want to empty it out now, just so the cardboard's pretty thick, so you don't want it to get too built up. And I'm going to take my hole punch. I'm going to find a dot. So what's nice about hole punches is usually you can see right where you're going to line up the puncture on the dot, and I'm going to give it a good squeeze. And if you have small hands that are having trouble squeezing it, this is a good time to help. 2 hands are better than 1 sometimes, or 4 hands are better than 2 hands. And you're going to work your way around, squeezing, squeezing. Keep going. Keep going. And while I'm doing this, you can let me know, how is everyone doing? All right. There we go. Feel free to let us know if you're using any sorts of different types of materials or have any suggestions. I think that's the beauty of doing things live. We can talk to one another. My hole puncher is feeling a little full. I'm going to go ahead and empty it out again. And I'm going to come back to where I left off. Squeeze. Squeeze. Keep going. Keep going. Give your hands are going to be extra strong after doing this kind of stuff, right? Okay, so now you can see the light probably coming through. My dots have all been punctured. They've been popped out. If anybody does not have a hole punch, you can use, if you have a surface you can press into, I would say like a Phillips head screwdriver or something you can use to kind of help twist in on each shape to push it through. A sharp pencil, but of course, like making sure, you know, your hands aren't underneath anything, and definitely don't do it on your lap or on a surface. Like if you poke it all the way through, it might end up, you know, ruining a surface. So you don't want to do it on your nice tabletop and have big, excuse me, puncture holes on there. Okay, so this is where you can get really creative and you can decorate, as I showed you on my cardboard one over here. So I was using Sharpie markers. You can use whatever you want to decorate with, whatever coloring utensils you have. I will also mention this version, I use a cereal box or just like a snack box, and it does show up with the design on the other side. So this is a consideration you might want to take. If your cardboard has a design on one side and you don't like it, you could always cut another piece out and glue it onto the back and use that as a decoration. That's totally up to you, but I would do that at the very, very end so that you don't have to deal with trying to puncture holes in both layers, okay? But just something to think about as you're designing this is if your back does have a design on it. But my recommendation is to make it super fancy unless you're using, I had this really fancy paper over here that does not need any decoration on it right now, okay? So if you guys want to share what you're doing to decorate, you can let me know. I was using Sharpie markers. I'm not going to do the decorating right here with you right now since I want to make sure I show you how all the webbing is done. And afterwards, I can take some close-up shots of the ones that I've made that if you need some ideas. So let's go ahead and get into creating the webbing, okay? I have yarn. Any type of string will do. If you have embroidery floss, that's great. If you have more simple, you know, twine or cotton crochet yarn, that will also work. You just want to make sure you have about 3 arms length. And when I say arms length, I mean like from this fingertip to this fingertip, all the way spread out. And knowing that our arm spans are going to be different, that's totally fine. This is just an estimate. I always say have a little extra just in case. But my recommendation is to cut it off from the main skein, whatever you're working off of. So if you're using like a ball of twine, you want to cut it off of the ball of twine, or you're using a big thing of embroidery floss, which is embroidery floss, if you don't know this, is friendship bracelet making floss. And that's what I used for this dream catcher over here. But since it's thinner, I thought it would be easier. You can see it's much easier to see this thicker yarn for our tutorial today. So I'm going to measure off 3 arm spans. I know you guys can't quite see me going arm span to arm span. I like to drop my yarn on the floor so it lets it roll freely. 2, and then 3. I'm going to cut the yarn right here. And I'm going to take my end. Now, It doesn't really matter right now on my circle, my ring here, because I don't have a design on it. If your design has a very obvious top and bottom, you will want to make sure that where you insert your yarn or your string is going in the top hole, okay? So this is what I'm going to call the top hole right up here. And I'm going to just take one end of the yarn, it does not matter which end, and I'm going to put it through. So I just pushed it through. Again, it doesn't really matter which way right now, but I'm going to put it through, and I'm going to do a square knot. So this is the the beginning of tying your shoelaces. So we crisscross, and then we're going to take the short tail because it's underneath, and it's going to go through the loop, and I'm going to pull it down once, and we're going to do it again. We're going to crisscross. I'm going to take my tail, put it through my loop, and tie it again. So we have a double knot. So it's attached. I'm going to cut this a little shorter. You can leave it if you want. Do not cut it super close to the knot or else it might come undone. All right. Now I'm going to pull my yarn all the way back to the ends over here. So it's pretty long. And you'll notice this end looks a little frazzled or frayed, if you will. I'm going to cut off that frayed edge. That way it's going to be a little easier to pull it through. And this is where I'm going to take a piece of tape where it's optional. The reason I am taking a piece of tape is so that my yarn will stay nice and gathered. So I'm just going to put the tape and the yarn on top of the tape, and begin to wrap it around. It doesn't need a lot, and we can cut this off at the end. Just enough so you can see it adds like a lot of sturdiness to my yarn, whereas if my yarn's like this, it droops over. Okay, so it's up to you. It's almost like having a needle to help you thread it through the holes. This is totally optional, and if you don't have it, don't worry. Let me see, how is everybody doing? If you want to give a thumbs up, you can let me know. But I don't see anything coming through. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the weaving process. Okay? So the side that you want to now think about is, if you notice on here, you can see there's like stitches versus this side where you're going to see your webbing. So I want this to be my front side. I'll just put a little dot on this side over here just so we know it's the front. The front side is where you want your decorations. That is the side we want to start with. Bring our yarn through the hole. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight down and roughly find the hole on the opposite end from the top, go to the bottom hole. I'm now going to take my end all the way on the other side. I'm going to bring this a little closer, and we are going to poke it. You guys see that? We're going to poke it through, and now I'm going to pull it. So yes, I know there's a little bit of pulling happening here, and as the more stitches we do, the easier it's going to get. So I have one line pretty much going straight up and down. You can see my yarn is now out the back side over here, and so technically we've made our first stitch. So now, since my yarn is on the back side, you see how it's hanging out back here? We are going to go to the hole next to where we just came out of, okay? So we can either go to this hole or that hole. It doesn't really matter. You just need to go to the hole next door. I'm going to go to this hole. So I'm going to poke my yarn through, and you guessed it, we're going to go ahead and pull, pull, pull all the way through until it sits against our cardboard. You don't want to pull so hard that it starts to bend. Just nice and just a little tug so it sits right against the cardboard. And you can see now my yarn has come back to the front. Go ahead and find the end of your yarn again. I know it's a little long, and if you're really struggling, like it ends up being way too long, go ahead and cut it shorter, and you can always redo your ends if you're struggling. Okay, so this time we're going to go on to back to the top to the opposite hole. So from this way, we're going to go next door. We don't want to go straight up on this side, okay? what we want to do is we want to go next door. We're going to crisscross. We're going to pull this through. And you can see now we are starting to make a crisscross. So it's starting to make the web. Okay, we're going to flip back to this side. I'm going to take my end over here. And this is sewing. So if you've never done any sewing before, this is like a running stitch in sewing where you're going up and down. So we just pulled it again all the way against our loom. And now we're going to come back down right next door over here. I'm going to pull my yarn through. And while I'm working on this, let's see how everyone's doing. Any questions? Let's see. All right. I think it looks like you guys are doing okay. Amazing. So you can start to see this is really beginning to create that crisscross of webbing effect. And you're going to keep going in this pattern, which is nice. Once you get the hang of it, it's just a pattern. So we're going to go right next door. We're going to pull it all the way through. We're going to come back to the front. And we're going to come up to the opposite side over here. Pull it through. All the way through. There we go. And come next door. And I don't know if you guys know what dream catchers were used for, but there are legends saying that dream catchers will catch your bad dreams and they will let your good dreams, they basically will trickle down, and that's why they usually have the decorations on the bottom, so your dreams will trickle down, and that way you'll get a good dream and your bad dreams will be caught and you won't have any bad dreams. So a lot of people like to hang these over their bed, so you can decide, you know, if there's a good place for you to hang this. You know, if you want somebody to have good dreams. I mean, good dreams could be just, you know, having an idea of like, one day I want to grow up to be a famous artist, and you just want to hang up your dream catcher so that you have good thoughts about being something that you want to grow up to become. Okay? So maybe you want to give this to somebody. You know, somebody who could really use some good dreams in their lives, and you want to give this to somebody. You can hang this up in your window. I know there's a lot of cool art projects that are now happening all over the country where people are displaying artwork as they're going out on walks and like scavenger hunts. So this might be a cool one, especially I did rainbow, so I know rainbow is a big one that a lot of folks are doing. And here I am, whoop, I pulled that a little too tight. Here I am on my last two holes here, right? So you can see, I'm going to come through the back over here, just like I have been doing. Pull it all the way to the front. There we go. And we're going to bring this up to the top. And there we go. We've now created our webbing. This almost can be a loom, so if anybody does any sort of weaving, you can even use these spokes in the webbing for weaving, but that again will be for another day. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to tie this off. You don't want to just cut your string because everything's going to come undone. The way we're going to tie it off, I'm going to take the end over here and I'm going to put it back through the same hole through the opposite side. And we're just going to pull it all the way down. Pull it all the way down. And I call this a balloon knot because if you notice, this looks like a balloon now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of my yarn and I'm going to pop the balloon. I'm going to put that through. And we're going to pop that. And we want to do that 3 times to really make sure we're going to make a good knot so nothing comes undone. Okay? So that was 2. And then I'm going through actually the back. You guys see that a little bit better. Let's see. I'm going to actually come underneath my loop on the back. Let's see if I can poke that up. Hang on one second. There we go. I came underneath my loop on the back. Pull it through. So we get a much smaller balloon. I'm gently pulling it, gently pulling it. You notice my balloon again. We're going to pop that, and that will be my third. Okay. So now what we can do is we can cut this right here. So I have my knots. Everyone's doing okay? Oh, Grammy made it. Awesome. All right. So again, I always leave a little bit of string just hanging out. And I'm going to come back to my top. So you can see I now have all my webbing. And what we want to think about is making a loop so you can hang it up, and then how you can hang off some of your decorations on the bottom, okay? So to make the loop on the top, I'm just going to take a piece of my string that I have left over, since I did end up with quite a bit of string still left over, and I can still work with that. So maybe about, I don't know, 10 to 12 inches. You can certainly use a ruler if you want to work on measuring, but you can also eyeball it. So I took a loop and I'm going to fold it in half so the two ends meet up. And what we're going to do, the two ends, I'm going to hold together, and I'm going to come through my top loop, which is right here. So push those two ends together. I threaded them through the hole, and this is where we're going to make our knot. So if you notice, it has a loop on the back side. I'm going to pull the two ends through that loop, and it hitches it to the top. And I'm going to now tie, just bringing the tail down, making a loop and pulling it through the loop here. So it brought the two ends together. And so now I have a really nice way of hanging this up. If anybody is having trouble with that, just let me know. And again, these videos will be available after I'm done filming today. So these are all set. We're going to come down to the bottom. I'm going to take, you can eyeball this. You can use your hole punch again. I'm going to create another hole punch right here, and right here. You do not have to do this. I did not put anything on the bottom of this one. So again, it's totally up to you. However, I did add all my embellishments. I was thinking this looked very like nighttime-ish. So I like stars and swirls on the bottom over here. You can make feathers, you can add beads, you can add buttons. It's up to you. But I'm going to cut some of my extra yarn again. Again, 10 to 12 inches, roughly. I'm going to cut 3 pieces, one all about the same size. I'm going to cut 2, and now I'm going to cut 3. And I'm going to do that same thing I just showed you where we fold each piece in half. I'm going to take the two ends and I'm going to push them through the opening here. And this is going to just, you can see I pushed it in, the ends through, and then I'm going to put the two ends through the loop, and it attaches it really well to our ring, okay? So do that 3 times. Find your other thing. And you can certainly do it more. Again, this is the best part of making stuff. You're the artist. You guys get to decide how you want this to look. So if you don't want it, you do want it, you want more, you want less, it's totally up to you. So I just stuck the 2 strands through. I'm going to come back through the loop. And last one. We're going to do the same thing on our 3rd hole. Do we have any questions while I'm doing this? Okay, excellent. So we have 3. You can make them different sizes if you want to make some shorter. I just like to keep them like this just to start with, and then decide what you want to cut out. So if you do have something fancy, let's say you want to do a heart, you cut a pretty easy heart out over here. My recommendation, so just cut a quick heart out. You can certainly use stencils. Once you have it cut out, just take the hole punch, put it through, and then you can tie it right on. So I'm going to take the 2 ends, make sure my ends are pretty even. Take my 2 ends, push it through the hole. I push both ends together, and then I'm going to tie it off, just like we tied off our knots to attach our yarn to our rings. Okay, so there we have it. You can double knot tie it, but I'm starting to add my embellishments. You can add a bunch on there. You could glue them on. Again, it's really up to you how you want to decorate this, but voila, we have made your very own dream catcher. And I would love to see some examples if you guys were able to create some in different materials or different decorations. I think it would be amazing to put them all together and see what you guys were able to come up with. And like I said, I am hoping that maybe we'll get some more tutorials, recorded ones, and I can teach more complicated techniques. But you guys did an amazing job today. I thank you so very much for joining us for Creativity Time. I will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Same time, same place on Facebook Live. And I will also direct you. You can go check out our Creativity Time webpage where you will see all of our videos that we've been working on over the past 2, now going on 3 weeks. We also have really cool boredom buster kits, which have some of our favorite tools that we use at the studio, so you can check that out as well. And if you have any questions or want to check in on how to do something, please feel free to reach out. We're really excited that you are going to be crafting, and we love that we can bring this to you. So have a great rest of the day, everyone. Thanks so much.